And please don't take this as disrespect, Mr. Lindsay, Ms. Clausing. I appreciate your being here, but I wanted to talk to the people that are actually in the retail business. I'm an automobile dealer. I'm not somebody that grew up on a laptop. I grew up on blacktop. And who I talk to are moms and dads who are trying to make sure that their budgets are workable. And whenever I sit down with people to see if we can get to some type of a solution for their transportation problem, it's always the wife who makes the final determination of whether they can afford or not afford to buy a new car or a new truck. And sometimes the difference is $5 a month. Now, in Washington, D.C., people say, oh, that can't be possible. Please come home with me and see what blue-collar people go through every single day of their life. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, because you're in the retail business, my concern is the final price on the shelf for those folks that pick up the tab on every single thing this wonderful government does in their name. So if you can just tell me, now Mr. Luciano, you talked about things were happening in ag. Mr. Cornwell, you talked about what was happening at Target, which my wife is addicted to being in every Sunday right after Mass, and Walmart I go to quite a bit because they're all in my town. The effect, the actual effect on everyday Americans, because the global supply chain has changed. I also have in my pocket, by the way, Moroni labels, which I would love to share with people that show parts content, because that's truly the complication of how do you tax different pieces. So if you can tell us, and there's not enough time to do it, 5 minutes is not nearly enough time to talk about this huge proposal. How does this affect the price on the shelf, and how would it affect consumers as we go down this road, both plus and minus? I know we have to pay for these tax cuts, but I don't want it to be the back of everyday, hard-working American taxpayers.
Sure, I'd be happy to start. And Mr. Chairman, for the record, I think I'll stay with Mr. Cornell for today. But we talk to consumers all the time. I have 30 million shoppers in our stores every single week. I spend time with them in our stores and in their homes. And to your point, these are families, middle-class families on a budget. And for those families, as we look at the implications, I think the unintended implications of the new border adjustability tax, we know that their prices would go up on essential items. They'll pay 20% more for apparel, and I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining why. On back-to-school items, they're also going to spend more on essential items like produce that in the winter we don't grow in the United States. They come from Mexico and Chile. We're not going to be growing bananas anytime soon in Ohio or coffee beans in Michigan. So that basic American family, they're going to pay higher prices. We've talked about manufacturing coming back to the U.S., and I'd certainly love to see that happen. But I also know, and Mr. Simon's talked about this, for many of the supply chains, they don't exist here in the U.S. right now. 97% of all the apparel we buy in the U.S. is made outside the U.S. Those supply chains don't exist here. So I know under the new border adjustability tax, the prices we pay, that those moms pay to buy apparel and clothing for their kids, they go up. And right now, I can tell you when I sit with them, they're on a budget. At the start of the month when they get a paycheck in their family, they're loading up their pantry, they're buying a few unique things for their family. By the end of the month, they're counting their final dollars. So we've got to make sure we understand the impact on American consumers. All of the electronic devices we all love, all of our phones and tablets, those supply chains are not here in the U.S.
Let me just stop you for 1 second because we're running out of time. How many employees do you have?
I have 320,000 employees, 99% of which are right here in the U.S.
Mr. Simon.
Well, I'm retired now. I have one.
But when you weren't retired?
1.3 million.
1.3 million. Mr. Luciano.
32,000 globally, 20,000 in the U.S.
But I want to make it really clear. As I hear this thing, we go into political talking points rather than good policy here. How can we attack the other side? I would just like to remind everybody that's sitting in this panel, in addition to paying taxes on your profits, there's a huge item there called wage taxes, there's business privilege taxes, there's real estate taxes that actually propel all the wonderful programs this nation supplies for its people. And I think sometimes we miss the bigger part of this. It is you that is responsible or makes up all the revenue for Social Security, for Medicare. All these wonderful programs that we have come out of wage taxes. And I think that we better take a look at, are we going to eliminate people who are working? They're the ones that pick up the tab and all these wonderful things. I thank you so much for being here. We share your concerns, and we're on board. We're going to do this the right way. Thank you, and I yield back.